A pleasure to meet all at last. And well, today it is June 23rd. And after 2 episodes, I feel like that today, it might be a good time that we get on to the first ever bonus episode in this series. And you're probably wondering exactly, what exactly is this bonus episode going to be about? You're probably scratching your heads and all that, but I'm going to clarify something real quick here. Bonus episodes are in fact based on new things that have taken place. I've talked about new movies and documentaries and whatnot. And you're probably wondering, new shows? Of course. Why wouldn't I do that? But I'm going to do things a bit differently here as opposed to what I've done with any of my other programs in this new Talk About It universe, or TAIU for short. Because after all, newer movies have been coming in left and right, and it's incredible to say the least. And with all these new amazing things that have happened in the film industry in the past 6 months, I really gotta say, this whole summer especially is gonna be quite a trip. But since I have in fact gone to the theater a few times this past week, one in particular that I might as well bring up here is Elemental. Yep, the latest Pixar blockbuster, which people are proclaiming is bombing pretty badly. Most likely because of the intense traffic amongst all these other blockbusters that are showing up at the same time. So you probably wonder, why would they have such indecency here? Why would Pixar want to basically release a movie at the same time that other big name movies are coming out, instead of wait for a while? I probably would have considered something similar. Because why release a big time Pixar blockbuster at the same exact time that other big name blockbusters that are earning a lot of money are also out? So of course, what can I say about this? I might as well just get down to it as a whole. Elemental, as the name itself implies, is about the elements of nature itself. Fire, wind, water, and nature. Plants specifically, like trees and shrubs. So of course, just to get down to business on that, that's exactly what it is. You got air, you got earth, you got water, you got fire. So, I guess with that in mind, that covers the basic know-how of the whole entirety of what the film is supposed to be. A film about the elements. The plot revolves around a fiery couple, literally, their being is made of fire. They basically move into Element City, an enormous haven where all 4 of these elements gather together in peace and harmony. And they basically find a rundown apartment building. This building, so to speak, becomes their new home. And it also becomes a small retail store where they sell all kinds of hot merchandise. Oh man, it's like this movie was asking to make a million jokes about it. Asking all of us to come up with as many puns for it as possible, so do mind the fact that I might occasionally say something elemental about it. Oh man, I'm gonna be on a roll here. So anyways, the cast itself is composed of people like Mamoudou Athie, Leah Lewis, Catherine O'Hara, and a few others here and there. The main protagonist in this movie is named Ember. Ember Lumen, to be exact. She's the daughter of this fire couple whom had moved into the city and opened up their own store, determined to be the so-called successor to her own father. But unfortunately, one thing is holding her back. Her temper. Whenever she's in a great deal of stress, she gets explosive. Literally. She bursts. The energy itself is like a bomb that's just waiting to explode. And when it does, oh boy, it gets pretty bad. The whole thing itself basically goes on for a long time. Even when she's fully grown up and all that good stuff. Everything she's done with her life is all complete and worthwhile. Education, whatnot. Even then, it seems that she has never been able to keep control of herself. And with one last outburst that takes place, not long before a special day known as Red Dot Sale comes by, it seems she may never truly get to be the successor of the store, the new owner of the place. Well, somehow that all changes. Red Dot Sale shows up, and she gets really stressed and to basically contain her explosive temper as much as possible until it becomes too great. She goes all the way down to the basement of the house and unleashes right then and there. This causes a pipe to burst. Actually, no. A number of them. Water leaks out all over the place, and from within those pipes comes a water figure known as Wade. Wade happens to be an inspector of the type whom apparently ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. It is soon explains that he actually ended up in these pipes, and coincidentally happened to be in the same basement. And how was that? Well, he was actually looking for a leak that had occurred. A leak that supposedly was causing problems in other parts in Element City. Firetown itself was pretty much the biggest haven that it was affecting at the time, so that's why he was determined to find out the source of the leak. And even after the fact that Ember chases after him, goes all the way down to the office where basically these tickets that were filed for various violations, they're sent all the way down to his boss. His boss, who's basically an air person. She was basically at a stadium. A stadium that is pretty much none other than a team. A team that happens to be playing sports. And the whole thing basically is sorted out when a deal is arranged between the three where if Ember and Wade can figure out what's going on, what the source of the leak is, and how they can fix it up within a few days, then maybe all of these charges that were filed against Ember's store could actually be reciprocated. The time is against them at this point, and they scramble to find out exactly what happened. After some time passes, not just between both of them, trying to establish a firm relationship with each other, after many transgressions were made back then, they eventually do settle upon a good source, if you will. This source actually happens to be a large crack in the wall. This wall in particular is occupied by a waterway in where big ships come through. And these ships that technically harbor the likes of the watermen, basically it goes through these waterways and causes waves that splash down into this canal, the crack in the hole itself in the wall, and then the water itself gets in through these canals. These empty canals which were supposed to be kept dry. And well, lots of things take place. Ember tries to keep her relationship with Wade a secret, and after some time passes, they finally figure it out. The main solution to be able to plug up the hole is by using sand. After finding sandbags in a nearby construction site, well, it turns out that it actually works, but only temporarily. It breaks through the sand, the water pressure becomes too great, but then they find another solution. After a little time on the beach, Ember was able to turn the sand into glass. And by turning the sand into glass back at the wall with the hole in it, she was actually able to create a much better seal in contrast to the sandbags. And this actually was studied by Wade's boss. They determined that it would actually hold. And so, Ember was able to keep her shop. Her family was safe, and they didn't have to worry about nothing else. Of course, in terms of how Ember's family knows about this, well, a good majority of the time that she's out, they have no idea she's in love with a water person. A water person that her own father has serious hatred against for various reasons. It is explained, after all, what happened. What happened between him and water people was quite simple. The land that her family used to occupy, an enormous land meant for fire people, unfortunately fell victim to a massive storm. And this storm was too great for them. They eventually decided to take part and charter a quest to find a new place to live. And that's basically where the two were able to come down to Element City, find their own place, and make themselves a living and a nice, comfy place to live at the same time. Leading up to the points of today, basically, where the famous blue flame is kept lit, in the hopes that they will forever have everything they need to survive. Probably for a long time. But then the real kicker shows up. At the same time that Wade tries to convince Ember to go along with him on some bigger and even more better job opportunities in life, the fact that she's struggling to try and contain her excitement at the same time and trying to keep herself together, because she does, after all, want to become the new owner of the store, as her own father intended. She's always wanted to follow in his footsteps, like a lot of people have. But yet outsiders, like Wade, for example, want to show her the ways of the world, and more importantly, how it can actually be better in another place. That's what a lot of people basically have. Some want to follow their father's footsteps, and some want to change them to basically give them a better opportunity. I've never not seeked out a good opportunity in life, and I sure as heck am going to remain as happy as I possibly can with everything I got right now. So nothing else is different on that part. But then the glass gives way. The water level becomes so huge, it causes an immense flash flood to Firetown. The store is destroyed. Wade tries to help, but unfortunately, he gets stuck in a room alongside Ember. And well, the end pretty much comes. Wade evaporates in the room. And even after the wreckage is cleared and everybody turns out alright, Wade, unfortunately, is no longer alive. Or so it seems. By talking a few things that would make him cry, which I really gotta say, is a common thing that he and his own family happen to do. It's insane. But they are water people after all. I don't know what to expect. Oh man. Otherwise, Wade actually was able to come back. Apparently, all the evaporated water molecules were stuck to the ceiling, and when they dropped back down into a large bucket, he was able to come back. Just like that. That's pretty clever if you ask me. Imagine if we were made of water, we get stuck to the ceiling, and that's our way of dying, and then eventually we fall back down and come back to life. That's quite a way to go if you ask me. Otherwise, happily ever after, in the end, over, done, finito. Ember and Wade live happily ever after, embark on their own quest in the same way that her parents did back then. And I guess with that in mind, that completes this whole entire thing. It's quite a journey if you ask me. One that's rather interesting, but I just cannot grasp the fact Pixar has been under fire, and the fact that they have been suffering from box office bombs and all that. I can never understand why in the world would it ever happen. I mean, are we ever going to have ourselves a big-time blockbuster relating to Pixar? Maybe in 2024, when the next film out there, which apparently Elemental had somehow leaked, not necessarily all the way, although there are, in fact, early trailers that have been showing up lately where this new upcoming 2024 Pixar film is gonna show up soon enough. But I guess we'll see what happens then. We have yet to hear more information on this newer project that they're doing here, which actually sounds quite interesting as well. A film about the elements, followed by a film in a cyberpunk-like environment. It could be better than 2077. Who really knows? Otherwise, though, being that this is my first ever bonus episode with a show about TV shows and all that, trust me when I say I'll get back to that with the next episode coming tomorrow. But until then, Elemental is impressive by any means. It's not just the quality, it's not just the cast, but it's mainly the likes of the story and the many conflicting resolutions that every one of us regard every known Pixar film in existence with. Of course, we know that Toy Story is about sticking together in an effort to escape the clutches of evil. And we know that Finding Nemo allows family values to come together. A traumatic experience in one's past should never allow a father to have their child be in their clutches. The child should be able to do whatever they need to do, like go to school and have fun with their friends. And then we have The Incredibles, also family values related things. But this time it's about superheroes. And if it's a superhero family, it can't always just be about the father, if you will. And with every other Pixar film, they all have their own resolutions that by the end, we all get to hear about and understand at the same time. It's quite a series of life lessons that I hope Pixar turns into its own novel someday. And so, for Elemental, I'd say it gets itself a big score here of 8.4 out of 10.1. Not necessarily a perfect bit, as opposed to other animated films out there, like The Bad Guys. Oh man, are we ever going to get another film like that? Hopefully we do, if it doesn't get any better than it. Otherwise though, this concludes my first bits relating to bonus materials. But don't expect me to not do any more of this stuff, because there's been a ton of new movies coming out, and I got no reason to not do anything like that.